They thought they could cage God. The Philistines, drunk on victory, believed they'd captured his power, locked it in a golden box, and dragged it into the temple of their god, Dagon. But that night, in the stillness of a sleeping city, something stirred. No voice, no thunder, just a silence so heavy it could crush stone. By morning, Dagon lay shattered, face down in the dirt, bowing before the ark of the Lord. What happened in that temple? What unseen force made an idol crumble and a nation tremble? This is the story of a God who doesn't need to shout to win, a God who walks into the house of the false and watches it fall. Buckle up, because this tale will shake you to your core and leave you questioning what you worship. The sun rises over a battlefield, dust swirling like a storm. Israel's soldiers tighten their armor, their faces tight with fear. Across the valley, the Philistines stand tall, their red and black banners snapping in the wind, their shouts mocking the trembling Israelites. For years, Israel has been drifting, praying to God with their lips but chasing their own desires with their hearts. They want his power, not his presence, and today they'll pay the price for that mistake. The battle begins with a clash of metal and a roar of voices, but it ends in devastation. Israel's lines shatter. Thousands fall, their blood soaking the earth. A soldier's cry pierces the chaos. Where is God? But there's no answer. No fire from heaven, no angelic rescue, just silence. The survivors stumble back to camp, hollow-eyed, faith crumbling. How could the God who toppled Jericho's walls abandon them now? In their desperation, someone has an idea. Bring the Ark of the Covenant. The sacred chest that parted seas and carried God's presence will surely save them. The priests carry it into camp, its gold gleaming in the sun. The people cheer, hope flickering. Even the Philistines tremble, remembering tales of Egypt's plagues. But here's the gut punch. Israel isn't seeking God. They're using him, treating the ark like a lucky charm, a weapon to wield. They don't repent. They don't surrender. They just want to win. The armies clash again, and this time it's worse. 30,000 Israelites die. The ark, the very symbol of God's promise, is snatched by Philistine hands. Their laughter echoes as they carry it away, leaving Israel broken, humiliated, and empty. Can you feel that loss? The moment when everything you trusted in is ripped away. In a small house, an old priest named Eli waits for news. When they tell him the ark is gone, his heart breaks. He falls from his chair, strikes his head, and dies. In that same hour, his daughter-in-law, racked with labor pains, gives birth. She names her son Ichabod, the glory has departed, and dies whispering those words, the glory is gone. Israel is shattered. But here's the twist that will grab you. God didn't lose that day. He let himself be carried away, not in defeat, but in a divine plan. The Philistines thought they'd won a trophy. They didn't know they'd just invited the living God into their city. What happens when you think you've defeated the Almighty? The Philistines march into Ashdod, cheering, lifting the ark high. They place it in the temple of Dagon, their fish-headed god, as proof of their victory. Dagon has triumphed, they shout, feasting and dancing, but they don't see what's coming. That night, as the city sleeps, the temple grows heavy with an unseen presence. The air thickens, the silence hums with power. No wind, no voice, just a weight that presses against the stone walls. If you were there, you'd feel it in your chest, a vibration like thunder before it breaks. The ark sits still, but the space around it trembles. Across the city, a dog whimpers and flees. A priest stirs in his sleep, heart pounding. And then it happens. Dagon falls. The crash echoes like judgment, dust rising like smoke. By morning, the priests find their god face down before the ark, as if even stone must worship. They scramble to explain it. It was the wind, one mutters. The foundation's weak, another says, but their trembling hands betray them as they hoist Dagon back up, patching his cracks, straightening his crown. They leave the temple, eyes darting to the silent ark. Deep down, they know something holy has entered their city. Can you imagine that fear? Knowing you've brought something into your home that you can't control? The next night, heaven moves again. This time, it's not subtle. The air pulses with authority, a soundless roar that shakes the temple's pillars. Dagon trembles, cracks splitting his chest. Then silence, and he shatters. When the priests return at dawn, they freeze. Dagon lies in pieces, his head and hands broken off, lying at the threshold, headless, handless, lifeless. This isn't an accident, it's a message. The head, symbolizing wisdom and authority, is gone. The hands, representing power, are severed. God hasn't just toppled an idol, he's dismantled its claim to glory. The priests stand silent, too afraid to approach the ark. They know now, this is no trophy. It's the throne of a God who needs no sword to win. What happens when the true God stands in the house of the false? The answer is chilling. Without a word, without a weapon, his presence alone makes idols fall. The Philistines thought they could mock heaven. They thought they could contain the divine. But God's presence doesn't negotiate. It doesn't share space. It simply is, and everything false crumbles in its light. The fall of Dagon is just the beginning. Ashdod wakes to whispers. Dagon has bowed. The once proud city feels colder, the air heavy with dread. Then the plague strikes. Priests clutch their bodies, sores burning beneath their robes. Strong men weaken, warriors drop their swords, mothers wail as their children fall ill. This isn't sickness, it's judgment. The people know it. The ark they celebrated now radiates terror. Animals grow restless near it. The air shimmers like a storm's edge. The God of Israel is among us, they whisper, but now those words drip with fear. The leaders meet in secret, arguing through the night. If we keep the ark, we'll die, one says. If we move it, he'll follow, another warns. They decide to send it to Gath, hoping distance will save them. But you can't outrun God's presence. In Gath, the pattern repeats. The people cheer the ark's arrival, unaware of its power. By nightfall, the same plague strikes. Men scream in pain. The proud fall low. Send it away, they beg. The ark moves to Ekron, but the people there riot before it even arrives, crying, "Have they brought the God of Israel to kill us too?" Fear spreads faster than the plague. Everywhere the ark goes, the ground trembles and hearts break. What kind of God fights without lifting a hand? Whose silence is louder than thunder? The Philistines are learning the hard way. This is a God who doesn't compete. He doesn't need to. His presence alone is enough. After 7 months of torment, the Philistines are desperate. They gather their priests and seers, pleading, "How do we make this stop?" The answer comes trembling. Send the ark back with an offering. They craft golden figures of their tumors and rats, symbols of their suffering, and place them with the ark on a cart pulled by 2 cows. They don't guide the cart, they let it go. And the cows walk straight to Israel, never turning aside as if led by an unseen hand. The Philistine lords follow from a distance, too afraid to draw near, watching as the ark crosses into Beth Shemesh. Israel weeps with joy as the glory returns. The people break the cart, sacrifice the cows and worship. But beneath their joy, a dangerous curiosity stirs. Some men, driven by awe and pride, decide to peek inside the ark. They want to see the sacred tablets, the manna, the rod that bloomed. Just a look, they think. God won't mind. But holiness doesn't bend to human whims. A wind tears through the field, and in an instant hundreds fall dead. The cries of joy turn to screams. The survivors tremble, whispering, "Who can stand before this holy God?" They send the ark away to Kirjath Jearim, where it stays for 20 years, hidden in a man's house, almost forgotten. But God's presence never fades. It waits. 2 decades later, a new king rises, David, the shepherd who spoke to God like a friend. He feels the absence of the ark, the missing heartbeat of Israel's worship. He gathers 30,000 men, not for battle but for worship. They'll bring the ark to Jerusalem. The people sing, dance, and play music as the ark moves on a cart. But when the oxen stumble, a man named Uzzah reaches out to steady it. His intent is good, but his touch is forbidden. He falls dead beside the ark. The music stops. David freezes, his joy turning to fear. "How can the ark come to me?" he whispers. For months he leaves it in another man's house, shaken, but then he hears the house is blessed, flourishing, thriving. David realizes the ark isn't a curse, it's a mirror. To the proud, it brings judgment. To the humble, it brings blessing. When David tries again, he's different. No crown, no pride, just a heart surrendered. The ark enters Jerusalem, not in triumph, but in reverence. The presence comes home, not just to a city, but to a heart that finally understands. This story isn't just about an ancient box or a fallen idol, it's about us. We all have a Dagon, something we trust more than God. Pride, fear, control, success. We build these idols slowly, choice by choice, until they stand beside God's presence in our hearts, daring to share His throne. But God doesn't share. He never will. His presence walks into our lives, silent but unstoppable, and every false god must fall. Sometimes He lets us lose what we love to show us what we've made it. Sometimes He lets our Dagons crumble to remind us He's the only one who stands. What's your Dagon? What are you clinging to that's keeping you from God's presence? This story begs you to look at your heart. The God who toppled a stone idol in Ashdod still moves today. He enters the temples we build, our plans, our fears, our pride, and He doesn't need to shout. His presence is enough. When the true meets the false always bows. So let it fall. Let your idols crumble. Surrender to the God who doesn't compete, who doesn't share, who simply is. Because when He moves, even stone obeys, and even the proudest hearts learn to worship.